According to NFPA, every 24 seconds a fire department responds to a fire. Every 60 seconds, fire occurs in a structure. 50 to 80% of fire deaths are the result of smoke inhalation. Lethal first degree burn gives you only 30 seconds to live more, and after, no more. You are watching Safety First, and today's HSC tutorial topic is fire safety. I'm your host, Javed. If you are new on this channel, kindly subscribe the channel and like and share the videos. Let us look what is fire. Fire is the process of burning. It is in fact a chemical reaction initiated by presence of heat energy in which a substance combines with oxygen in the air, and the process is accompanied by emission of energy in the form of heat, light, and sound. Therefore, three elements are essential for combustion: a combustible material, fuel, oxygen, and source of heat, spark, flame, etc. In other words, fire is the rapid oxidation of a substance with the evolution of heat and light in varying degree of intensities. What actually burns in a fire? Often a misconception is fire burns the actual chair or piece of wood. It is the gases given off by an object that burns. Heat causes objects to give off these flammable gases. When the gases reach their ignition temperature, you see the light given off during the oxidation known as fire. Fire itself generates more heat to the object, and thus an endless cycle begins until all the gases have been exhausted from an object. Then the remaining particles or ash are what is left. Let us look at the factors which are required to start a fire: heat, fuel, oxygen, and chain reaction of free radicals. As three lines are to be connected to form a triangle, the heat, fuel, and the oxygen are to be connected to cause a fire. Three things must be present at the same time to produce fire: enough oxygen to sustain combustion, enough heat to reach ignition temperature, and some fuel or combustible material. Together they produce the chemical reaction that is fire. Take away any of these things and the fire will be extinguished. What are the products of combustion? Smoke, light, flame, heat, and pressure. Let us look at the fire science. Oxygen sources, approximately 16% required. Normal air contains 21% of oxygen. Some fuel material contains sufficient oxygen within their makeup to support burning. Heat sources to reach ignition temperature: open flame, the sun, hot surfaces, sparks and arcs, friction, chemical action, electrical energy, and compression of gases. The third thing that is required: fuel. It might be material, it might be gases, liquids, or solids. What will be in the solids? Coal, wood, paper, cloth, or others. In the liquids: gasoline, kerosene, alcohol, paint, olive oil, and varnish. In the gases: natural gas, propane, butane, hydrogen, acetylene, and carbon monoxide, etc. Let us look fire extinguishment. The acts of fire equipment are a combination of physical skill, mental acumen, technical knowledge, and professionally trained manpower. All of the methods we use to control and extinguish fire are based on the fire category. We focus on removing one or more of the elements that allow the fire to extinguish. There are three methods to extinguish the fire. Number one, cooling the fire by removing the heat. Number two, starving the fire of fuel. And number three, smothering the fire by limiting the oxygen supply. Once there is an interruption in the chain reaction, there is no fire. Let us look how the cooling method works. If we remove heat side of the triangle, fire cannot sustain. Remove the heat sources, and there is nothing hot to start the fire. This is the example of cooling starvation. If we remove fuel side of the triangle, the fire cannot sustain. Remove the fuel sources and there is nothing to burn, smothering. If we remove oxygen side of the triangle, the fire cannot sustain. Remove the oxygen and there is nothing to feed the fire and the fire will be out. This is an example of smothering. Remember, fires will continue to burn until fuel is removed. Oxygen percentage is lowered below 11%. Heat is removed. Flames are inhibited chemically. Let us look the sources of ignition that might contribute in fires. Naked flames, electricity, overheating and arcing, smoking materials, hot works, welding or cutting, chemical reactions, giving off heat, heating appliances, hot surfaces, friction, inadequate lubrication, static electricity, lightning, improper storage of flammable materials, and lack of inspection and supervision. What are the harms from a fire to persons and the material? Many effects: being burned, inhaling toxic fumes, effects of smoke inhalation, and depletion of oxygen supply. Other effects might be collapse of building, crush or other injuries sustained while escaping. Let us look at the difference between flash point and the fire point. Flash point: there is the lowest temperature at which the vapor given off by a substance will ignite when brought in contact with the source of ignition. Fire point: when the fire point is reached, sufficient gas or vapor is being given off to sustain a flame when in contact with the source of ignition. Auto ignition temperature: this is the temperature at which gases or vapors will ignite without any external source of ignition. Let us look what are flammables. Liquids with a flash point between 32 degrees centigrade and 55 degrees centigrade. Highly flammable. The liquids with a flash point below 32 degrees centigrade shall be considered as highly flammable substances or liquids. What are the principal causes of the spread of fire? Conduction, convection, radiation, and direct burning. What is conduction? Movement of heat through materials, movement of hot gases up through the air, that is called convection. Transfer of heat through the air is radiation, and combustible materials in contact with naked flame is the process of direct burning. Fires bring losses, fire brings casualties. Let us look the causes of fires. It might be deliberate, electrical faults, misuse of electrical equipment, smoking materials, smoking in prohibited areas, loss of control burning rubbish, heating equipment, unsafe storage of materials, flammable liquids or gases, welding or cutting, mechanical heat, friction or spark, machinery failure, and dust explosion. One of these causes might be the cause of fire in a house, in an organization, or in a project. Let us look at the classification of fires. Class A, combustible solids. Class B, flammable liquids or liquefied solids. Class C, flammable gases. Class D, flammable metals. And Class F, combustible cooking media. Fire involving electrical equipment classified according to the source of ignition rather than fuel source. Have a short look for extinguishing agents. Class A, water, dry powder, CO2 and foam. For Class B, foam, CO2 and dry powder. For Class C, dry powder, water mist, foam, sand, soda ash or dry powder. For Class F, wet fire extinguishers. For electrical fire, CO2 and dry powder. These are the extinguishing agents. What will be the methodology to minimize the risk of electrical fire? Re-inspection by users, suitability of equipment, inspections and maintenance by the competent staff, avoid misuse of equipment, prevent overloading of circuits, correct design and rating for task, isolate the equipment if not in use, improved mean of protection by using RCD or ELCB, high standards of housekeeping and staff awareness training, how to make a fire risk assessment. To prepare a risk assessment, you have to follow the 5 steps of risk assessment. Identify hazards, the 3 elements of the triangle of fire. You have to look one by one. Identify who could be harmed and how, person at risk, particularly the disabled, etc. Evaluate the risks and adequacy of precautions, considering prevention, protection, and precautions. Record findings, prepare an emergency plan. And the last step is review and update in the light of any changes. If you are interested to know in detail about the risk assessment process, kindly click on the link appearing on your screen. Let us look at the factors to consider in fire risk assessment: construction and use of building, flammable materials, sources of ignition, work activities generating heat, methods of control, means of fire detection, means of raising the alarm, means of fighting fire or maintenance of equipment, evacuation routes and protection of routes, numbers of persons at risk, and fire prevention training and fire drills. Let us look what shall be covered in prevention, protection, and precautions. Fire prevention control measures to reduce the risk of fire, starting fire protection, structural measures to reduce the risk of fire spreading, fire precautions, measures taken to reduce the risk in the event of fire. What is fire prevention? Eliminate or reduce the storage of flammable materials, control of ignition sources, control of smoking materials, good housekeeping, lubrication of machinery to prevent friction, no overloading of electrical systems, regular inspections of electrical equipment, ventilation outlets not obstructed, controlling hard work with permits, proper storage of flammable materials, segregation of incompatible chemicals, security to prevent arson, and regular inspection and supervision of the installations, precautionary measures while storing highly flammable liquids and gases, minimum quantities, suitable fixed storage tanks, keep upright in well-ventilated areas, clear marking of containers, clearly marked storage area, spillage controls, adequate ventilation, suitable firefighting equipment, trained competent staff, and adequate warning signs are the requirements to store highly flammable liquids and gases safely. Fire protection, compartmentation, splitting a building into separate sealed areas made the fire resisting material, restricts the spread of fire and smoke within a building depends upon the use of the building, building height, floor area, and compartment volume. Let us look about fire resistant materials. Primary construction, the main fabric of the building. Secondary construction, internal partitioning, bricks, concrete, and structural steel. The third category, fire precautions, fire and smoke detection arrangements, fire alarms, means of escape, means of fighting the fire, and emergency evacuation procedures. There are different fire and smoke detectors are being used to prevent and detect fires, like smoke detector, flame detector, flammable gas detector, and heat detector. Let us look what will be included in fire alarms: gongs, bells, break glass points, Automatic systems, continuous detection alarm sounding. Call the fire brigade, indicate location of the fire, trigger extinguishers. What is the definition of escape? A means of escape is a continuous path along which a person can travel from whatever he or she may be in the building and reach the safety by his own unaided efforts. That is called escape route. Suitability of a means of escape depends upon number of employees to use it, any people with special needs, fire resistance of structure, position and number of escape routes, contents which are readily ignitable, open wells, open staircases, and use of building, means of escape, main requirements, multiple exits, final exit door. Let us look first multiple exit requirement. Fire resistance of structure, adequate size for numbers, travel distance, clearly marked exits, emergency lighting, and exit free of obstructions. For final exit door, unlocked opening outwards, fire smoke doors self-closing, fixed stairs to upper floors, exit to safe place, and suitable assembly point. Let us look the means of fighting fire. Remove oxygen, remove heat, or remove fuel as discussed before. Remove oxygen, smother the fire. Introduce a barrier between the fuel and the oxygen. A lit mineral fiber blanket, foam, sand, or carbon dioxide can be the means to extinguish, to remove oxygen. How to remove heat? What is the aim of removing heat? Reduce the temperature of the fuel and surroundings to below the ignition temperature. Uses water. Some of the heat is transferred to the water and some is used up in the conversion of water to steam. The resultant will be fire may be out, remove fuel, shut off the supply of flammable gases or liquids, use of walls, etc. For extinguishing a fire, there might be two arrangements, portable or fixed. Portable may be portable fire extinguishers, handheld or on a trolley. Fixed installations might include hose reel, flooding system, and sprinklers. Let us look fixed firefighting equipment, hose reel and sprinklers. Hose reels permanently connecting to the main water supply should be sited in a location which covers the whole area. Let us look the advantages and disadvantages of hose reels. Inexpensive, effective, harmless to health, unlimited supply of water at good pressure, greater force than sprinkler. Operators need not to be too close to the fire. These are the advantages of hose reels. Let us look at the disadvantages. Only suitable for class A fires. Poor sighting may cause inadequate coverage. Hose could be kinked, could stop fire door closing, and may create trip hazards. Now we'll discuss sprinkling system. A network of water pipes with spray heads normally at ceiling height is installed in vulnerable areas. The advantages are large coverage of water to prevent the spread of fire in the large open plan building where compartmentalization is not practicable. The disadvantages of sprinklers are only suitable for class A fires, causes damage to equipment, fitting and furnishings. Let us look what is flooding system. A high concentration of an extinguished gas, usually carbon dioxide, is automatically dumped in an enclosed areas. This is also known as CO2 drenching system. The advantages of CO2 drenching system are extinguishes fire without causing unnecessary damage to important equipment such as electrical equipment and computer rooms. Disadvantages might be harmful to health. System must be disconnected when people enter the protected area. Let us find the color coding of firefighting equipment. Fire extinguishers. Water. Color code red. used for class A, cools the fuel and surroundings. Dry powder, blue in color, uses for all types of fire, smothers the fire. Foam type fire extinguisher, cream color, mostly used for B class of fire, smothers burning liquids. Carbon dioxide fire extinguisher, black color, used for all classes of fires, cools and excludes oxygen. Cooking oils or fats, canary yellow, it's used for all type of fire classes, cools and excludes oxygen. Further details of fire extinguishers. Water, class A, lowers the ignition temperature, prevents reignition, only to be used on class A fires. Foam type fire extinguisher for class B, exclude oxygen, blanket effect, suitable for class B fires. AFFF, used to extinguish B class fire. Let us look the effects of dry powder. Extinguishing mechanism involved in DCP is as follows: decomposing and releasing CO2, smothering, cutting chemical chain reaction, heat absorption by powder. Dry powder, class A, class B, and class C, used for all. Powder has a smothering effect, but no cooling properties. Carbon dioxide, class B and class E, high pressure cylinder containing liquefied carbon dioxide. Liquid vaporize in contact with air. Safe to use on electrical fires and burning liquids. Let us look the effect of carbon dioxide. CO2 prevents combustion by displacing the oxygen in the air surrounding the fire. It is also a non-conductor of electricity. It doesn't leave any residue, thereby not causing damages due to firefighting media. Effects of special DCP for class D fire. Tech powder is a special powder which is very effective on metal fires. Let us look how the inspection and maintenance of fire extinguishers shall be carried out. Routine inspection, perhaps monthly visual checks to ensure extinguishers are in place, not being discharged or damaged. Maintenance involves an annual examination by a competent person with the removal and replacement of equipment found faulty and the date of inspection recorded. During the inspection and maintenance of fire extinguisher, it is required to justify location, means of escape, blockage of extinguisher, check the pressure level, no sign of leakage, weight of the extinguisher, weight of cartridge, and checking of extinguishing agents. During the fire extinguisher maintenance, daily checks being carried out by fire warden, weekly inspection also carried out by fire warden, annually service by competent person, 5 yearly extended service or discharge, and 20 yearly overhauling or replacement. In the meanwhile, if the fire extinguisher is discharged, it need to be refilled and certified by a third party. Accessibility, proximity of exits and escape routes, visibility and signage located off ground with adequate support, and suitable type, protection against damage and weather. These are the important factors to carry out the inspection and maintenance of firefighting equipment. You are watching Safety First, and today's topic is fire safety. Let us look emergency evacuation procedure. What shall be the part of emergency evacuation procedure? Means of raising the alarm, contacting the emergency services, fire evacuations route, fire evacuation signs, who are and the role of fire marshals, assembly points, place of safety roll call, when not to tackle a fire, types of extinguishers, prevention of spread of fire, closing fire doors, not to use lifts, evacuations in an orderly fashion, prevention of return, and disabled evacuation procedure. All these segments might be the part of emergency evacuation procedures. Let us know about fire drills. Practice drills should be undertaken to satisfy a legal requirement. Fire certificate provide instruction to employees on action to be taken. Checking alarm can be heard throughout the premises. Testing the effectiveness of evacuation procedure. Familiarization employees with the alarms and giving fire wardens to practice their roles. The other areas of fire procedures might include fire marshals and fire warden duties, fire instruction notices, assembly points, roll calls, and provision of exit for disabled and the people with special conditions. Soon, new videos shall be uploaded on the topics emergency evacuation procedure, duties of fire warden, how to use fire extinguisher, how to inspect and maintain firefighting installations. Dear friends, fellows and colleagues, fire is good servant, but a bad master. So please don't let your dreams go up in smoke. Don't forget, whatever burns never returns. One man is enough for fire destruction. Fire feeds on careless deeds. And I am here to teach, guide, and to save you from fire.